Hello everyone, welcome to Lunch Therapy. For those of you who haven't been here before, Lunch Therapy is a place where we take a break from all the crap that's going on in the world and experience some great things, some fun. Today is traditionally Interview Friday, and I've got a great guest for you today. Her name is Rondi Reed, and I'm going to introduce her here pretty soon. I wanted to say that we have a comedy show coming up that I'm in, and one of the regulars on the show, Jenny Sykes, is also in, and it is in New York. We're here in Los Angeles, but we will be in a New York show. It's a stand-up show. It is aptly called Stand-Up Show, which gives you an idea of what it's about. We're on the one on the 23rd. It starts at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. You just go to American Comedy Institute YouTube channel. We'll be there 5 p.m. Saturday night. Me, Jenny Sykes, and a plethora of hilarious comedians. So let's get into the show now. Interview Friday. Rondi Reed is our guest. Hey, Guy Fly. Yeah, so here we are. This is the breathing portion of the show. Every show has a breathing portion at the beginning. And what we do is we take in 3 breaths because we have to remember to breathe. First breath in through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. I have some great music for you at the end of the show today. There's a guy named Frank Watkins. I believe he's in England. I'm not sure, actually, but he has composed an original song. He usually does covers. I put a cover of him on here a while back, and now he's allowed me to play an original song of his, which is super cool. Apparently, he was working on Alice in Chains' Down in the Hole, and he suddenly, spontaneously wrote his own song. So that's kind of cool. Kind of an interesting thing. You do a cover of somebody else's song, and then it somehow inspires you to do your own. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Interesting technique, Frank Watkins. Let it go. We talk about that sometimes on the show, is how to get inspiration from other performers, other artists, other people out there. And that's one way, emulate their work. See how it kind of helps you get into their creative process and maybe stimulates your own. I don't know. Trish King is here. Fantastic musician from Maine. Trish, I want to play some more songs on your show. Mark, on our show. You play songs on your show. Mark Stragnell is here. Just a quick visit to say hi. Oh, he's doing a virtual gig. All right. Mark is a performer as well, a musician. Hopefully we can hit one of your virtual gigs too. It's night there. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. And let it go. I'm pretty relaxed now. But you know what I need is a few animals. So on this show, a lot of times we talk about animals. Interview Friday, we do the interviews. Sometimes, perhaps we may even interview an animal someday. I don't know. But for now, these are just some animals to relax you. Jose is here. Hum, hum, hum. And Joel, I think you are in my neighborhood. It's snowing there. Yes, it was snowing there. Now I'm in, I don't know where. Maybe I'm in the zoo, it looks like, with some meerkats. And before we get on to the interview, I do have some ducks. And they are probably where Trish is, because they go outside and they realize, whoa, it's way too cold out here. And they go back in. Those are some smart ducks. You know, I'm learning more and more about ducks these days. We're going to have a show where we talk about them again, maybe bring on Ginny Sykes. These are some marmots. I thought they were meerkats. I was thinking meerkats. Don't really know. So let's get on with this because I'm trying to keep the show to an hour today. I've got this great interview. I've broken it up into little modules, and then I'm going to put the full interview on Fat-Free Film. So it's sort of the reemergence of Fat-Free Film. The podcast will be this interview with Rondi Reed. So let me get into the intro here. Today's guest is a big honor. Because, and it's kind of a full circle thing for me because years ago, when I was a senior in college, I was a big fan of Sam Shepard, the playwright, the actor, and I really liked his plays. And I was at the Blockbuster Video, if anybody remembers that, and I saw one of his plays there on a videotape, and it was a play called True West. And I was like, this is great. I popped it in, I watched it, and what I saw was like nothing I had seen before. I mean, I thought these two guys were going to kill each other. By the end of the play, one of them had the phone cord wrapped around the guy's neck, and I thought he was going to strangle him. And it was so real impactful to me. And these guys were John Malkovich and Gary Sinise. They were doing this play, True West. I didn't really know what the heck was going on with it, but I was blown away. And so I started seeing, you know, these actors popping up. I think I saw Malkovich in Death of a Salesman on Broadway, and I'm like, who is this guy? Who are these people? Where are they coming from? And I found out they came from this place, Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago. And it just so happens that my friend Kevin Sherman was moving back to Chicago after graduating from Northwestern, and he said, do you want to come with me? And I was like, yes, absolutely. So I ended up at Steppenwolf Theater. That's where I ended up doing my internship. And, you know, it looked a little different at the time. I don't know if I have a picture here, but there will be a picture in the interview. This is the current Steppenwolf. It's much larger. But I met this incredible group of people, and so a lot of them ended up permeating the television world and the film world, and we've seen them and we know them, and, you know, Malkovich and Sinise and Joan Allen and John Mahoney and Jim True, who's on The Wire and many other things, and Laurie Metcalf, who was on Roseanne, and Glenn Headley, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, and Tracy Letts, the incredible playwright and actor. And the list goes on, and it includes my guest today, Rondi Reed. Rondi Reed has done over 60 plays there at Steppenwolf and also on Broadway and all over. She was Mike's mom on Mike and Molly. And she is gracious enough to be here today on Lunch Therapy. She has, you know, so much experience, and she's going to share it with us today. Let's just check the chat room here. I don't know. There's some good stuff in there, but I want to get going because I want to try and make this last an hour, just an hour. All right, so here's Rondi Reed. Ladies and gentlemen, feel free to chat along with the interview, and here it is. Thank you, Rondi, for being here.
Sure.
This is me starting the interview.
Okay.
Thank you very much for being here. I've been a longtime fan of yours, and I just really appreciate you being on our show, Lunch Therapy, today. It's extremely gracious of you, and welcome.
Thanks. I'm thrilled to be here.
Awesome. So, so I have been a longtime fan of you and Steppenwolf, and I got interested in it really early on when I was in college, I guess. And I am still fascinated about the origins of this theater because it is like the dream of all actors to be in a theater company like yours. and have that kind of experience. People try to recreate that experience, and I don't even know if there's anything on par with it really in America. So I want to start from the beginning. I want to find out how you got involved in that theater.
I was in college at Illinois State University, which is where a lot of the Steppenwolf people were, and a few Steppenwolf people, we weren't Steppenwolf then, they had transferred from another college, like John Malkovich had transferred from Eastern, and other people were there, and just sort of, Laurie Metcalf was originally a German major, and I can't even remember how she crossed paths with Terry Kinney, but then when she started dating Terry, she switched her major to theater. So it was kind of an unusual combination of how it began. A lot of us were recruited with talent grants, which was a professor who would go around to a lot of high school play festivals and that type of stuff. And at the time, Illinois State was, to my knowledge, the only place that was offering that, and we were all from small towns in Illinois, basically. Mm-hmm. None of us could afford to go to Northwestern. None of us had big full rides. We were taking out loans, and, our families didn't want us more than 2 hours away. That was
yeah. Yeah.
And there were some other places that, we couldn't get into because our grades weren't that good. Uh-huh. Not that we weren't smart or anything, but it was just like, we'd much rather be doing plays. That's what we wanted to do in high school. That, there's that famous story of Jeff Perry talking Gary Sinise dropping out of high school and going to audition for West Side Story. Mm-hmm. And Gary hooked into this thing and played a shark in high school. And the drama coach, Jeff was all gung-ho and speech contests and all that stuff. And both of his parents, his dad was head of the school board and his mom was a teacher. And so he had a background for that. And Gary's dad was a film editor, same area, but he wanted to be a rock and roll musician. So
when I talked to him way back when, I saw him in the theater, and he was sort of like, to me, it was like, oh my God, I'd seen him in True West, and I was like, oh my God, there's Gary Sinise. And I was like, hi, I'm Joel, I'm from Seattle or whatever. And he was like, oh, rains a lot in Seattle. And I was like, but what he did say was that he got into theater, he said, because he was like a troubled kid.
Yeah,
and he found theater was somehow he really took to it, and then he just kind of went with it. And obviously, he was driven by it because this theater company, it's just was like a freight train once the three of them started.
He was the one, and I've said this in other interviews. They formed it when we were in college, and they said, we want you to consider joining it. And I said, I've just fallen madly in love, and my boyfriend is going to go to graduate school in Minneapolis, and I'm going to go with him, but keep in touch. And then flash forward to 4 years later, and they're moving into the city from Highland Park, the north suburbs. And they said, we want to expand the company, and we have no character actresses, and we want you to join. And we don't know if there's Steve, my partner at the time, later my husband, later my ex-husband, but great friends still.
Steve Ike.
Mm-hmm. And they said, we don't know if we have a job for him, but we really want you to come. And he had just gotten done with his MFA, and he said, okay, you've been supporting me and doing all this stuff. And he was from the Chicago area originally. He said, let's go take a chance in Chicago. Wow. So we moved there in 1979, and they had just moved into Hull House at Broadway in Belmont. And that was a big step for them because they'd come from the church basement where they paid $1 a year. And then all of a sudden they were in this space, 122 seats, which they were like, oh, and that was the place that magic really did happen. Though in that time that we were there, I remember vividly at least 4 or 5 meetings where we were ready to just shut it down.
Yeah.
Totally shut it down. Screaming, yelling fights over who should do what. And
that's got to be the hardest part, I would think. You know, anytime I've been in a theater company, you're like, how do you decide who stars in the next play? And how do you decide what the season is? And, you know, you have an artistic director and that stuff, but still in an ensemble.
Yeah. Our first season that we were there, halfway through the season, our artistic director, H.E. Bacchus, resigned. He literally walked out and said, I'm sorry, I've got to go. In the middle of a rehearsal for an Alan Ayckbourn play.
Really?
And he said, John's going to take over. And Malkovich comes in. He's like, well, I think you guys are doing like really good and it's fine. And so let's just keep going. And we were all like, oh, that was upheaval. I mean, we thought, okay. I was ready to take a bus back to Minneapolis or wherever. I was like, I turned to Steve and I said, boy, we uprooted our life for this. Yeah.
Wow.
So we got through that. John did a great job. But then it began to roll. Yeah. Then it was like True West came up.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, Gary was the one that brought it to the company. And we got into this thing where let's do readings. Let's decide what we're going to do for whatever, you know. Yeah. And we did a reading and we all sat there, and the season before had been male centric, you know, and we sat there and Gary goes, well, man, you know, I think it's a great play. I think we should do it, but you know, we got to do something for the girls. And every one of the girls was like, we need to do that play.
Really?
That play.
Really?
Because it was a fallen flag kind of a play. You know, Sam Shepard had disowned it in the production.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in New York, big scandal. It was Peter Boyle and, oh God, who's the other guy? The two actors, and Sam Shepard sold like 80% of the rights to Joe Papp. And so there was this huge, you can Google it, a huge rift.
Really? I didn't know that.
This play was like languishing because it didn't get good reviews. It was not like, we could never get the rights to one of his big plays. We could never get it. And the agent went, you want the rights to True West? Yeah, wow. Fine. Okay. And so, because we knew when we read it, when the reading was done, there was like this energy in the room. And the women were like, no, we need to do this play. This is a play we need to do now. And so, it was done in Chicago, and that was sold out and could have run forever, you know. And then we knew it was going to go to New York. And at this point, John Malkovich had already gone off and done, like, I think, opening night of Balm and Gilead. He couldn't make it because the night before he had to go and be in a TV movie of the week in Detroit. So he said, I think it's really good.
Didn't he direct it? Did he direct it?
He did direct it. And he said, I think it's really good. You know, if they don't like it, fuck it. And Marshall Mason and Lanford Wilson are going to come out on the train and see it. And we were all like, what? I mean, you know.
And that was pre-True West? Was that pre?
Yeah,
because that was a landmark for Steppenwolf too. Balm and Gilead.
That was another one, you know. And years later, it ended up at Circle in the Square. But you know, so the True West thing is literally what kicked open the door for everything. And Gary said it's important for us to take this play. There was a meeting one night where it's like, we shouldn't go to New York. Screw New York. We don't need New York. Chicago. And Gary said, this play needs to go, and it needs to go now. And he resigned as artistic director. Jeff Perry took himself out of the cast of True West and said, I'll stay and be artistic director. Wow. So that was a huge turning point. One of the main ones who thought it shouldn't go to New York was me.
You, really?
Me. Because I was the most vocal of the women. What a shock.
Surprising.
You know, all the other women were like, And I was like, no, we don't, I really protested. I didn't think it was the right time. I didn't think it was, we were caving. And Gary made this argument. He goes, look, if we don't go out there and establish who we are, we're never going to be able to get rights to the plays that we want to do. Yeah. Because he would call the literary agents in New York and say, you need to come out here and see what we're doing. And, we need to have access. She goes, out there? No, young man, you were out there. I am not going out there.
Oh my God.
This was the whole, the organic theater had been there, and that was really on the map. And the Goodman, of course, had been there. But this was, and Wisdom Bridge was just cracking in, but nothing had happened with this whole Chicago rock and roll, none of that had happened.
I was amazed when I found Steppenwolf, how small it was. Yeah. I've got a picture of that. Just a sec here. I'll put it on.
Okay. Yeah, there it is. There it is. And, but it doubled our seats to 220.
Oh,
and
okay.
People on the board were like, oh, I don't know, I don't know. Can you fill those seats? And, of course, Malkovich, who had come back to direct, I think he directed the opening show there, A Prayer for My Daughter. And by this point in time, his ascendancy was really going.
Taken off.
Yeah. And so Jeff was still artistic director at that point. And so then it began to expand a little bit. And we were doing young audience series for Shakespeare. And that's when you came into the mix, was that. But they had followed us. And now there was really, and in that theater, how close you are. It's like spitting distance.
There's a story, and I don't know whether this is true. Maybe you can verify this. Somebody told me, I think Randy Arney told me this, that you were doing a play where there was like a bar on stage and there was a bartender, and some drunk person came into the theater thinking it was a bar, walked on stage, didn't see the people, walked on there and ordered a drink. And apparently whoever was behind the bar served him a drink. That's a great story. True. But it was that kind of place where it felt sort of like it was like a dark little cavernous little place.
Yeah. And when they were doing Fool for Love in New York, and Moira Harris from our company was doing it with Bruce Willis. And because of what happened with True West, they said, okay, the New York production is on, but Steppenwolf will give you the rights to it. And I had lobbied to play the role, even though I was not particularly right for it or whatever. But I mean, I lobbied Terry Kinney within an inch of his life. And he cast me, and Billy Peterson, and Randy Arney. And was a scene where Billy had this lariat that he would, as Eddie. Yeah. And he prided himself on being able to, he'd start it, and then he'd go bigger. And I was like, Billy, you got to be really careful. Because, I just want to ruffle the guy's hair in the front row. That's all. Just let him feel the air going over their head. I was like, but, when you were in that kind of environment, you heard everything that the audience, you could hear them. They were like, literally 2 feet away from you.
When I got on stage, that one play that I did there, I was on the edge of the stage. And the audience was so incredibly close. That actor who was in Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer at the time, can't think of his name. He was sitting right there in front of
Michael
me.
Rooker.
Michael Rooker. Yes. And I remember that was one of the things that terrified me when I was on the stage. I was sitting right in front of Michael Rooker the entire play. I just had a memory that I have to share with you. I remembered at the end of Secret Rapture that you were in, Jeff, I can't think of his last name, Hutchinson, shoots Linda Eamon through the door, or somebody shoots, Linda Eamon. And there's these 2 bullet holes. Well, I would hide behind the door, and I was the one that would make the bullet holes.
You would push them out.
Yeah, I would actually had magnets, and I would pull them out. And there were these. And one time, Linda was down on the ground because she'd go out the door. Yeah. She'd say goodbye or whatever, go out the door would close, she'd drop down, and then I'd go bang, bang, and I'd pull these things off of there. And one time, one of them fell off the magnets and broke her finger. Yeah. it fell down and broke her finger. And the next day I saw her and I was like, oh, sorry about that thing that fell last night. And she's like, it's okay. She never mentioned the fact that she broke her. She was like in a cast.
Oh my God.
I know. She kept going. I just kind of remembered it right now. And I was like,
I do remember
wow,
that.
These people are incredible.
But I was very impressed with that effect.
It was pretty cool, wasn't it?
That was very
The light
cool.
would shine through the holes, I guess. And so it looked really like he shot. Yeah.
Yes.
But
yes.
It was a user error.
Yeah, David Hare even came. He was in Chicago. I don't even know why he was in Chicago.
I remember him being there. I remember actually with him, he and I were playing Tank Battle on a computer one time. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm playing Tank Battle with David Hare.
And, we went out for a drink afterwards. And I was like, I can't believe I'm having a drink with David Hare. And he was very cordial and very sweet. I'm not sure he thought it was a very good production, but really? The translation between the Brits and the and we were all Brit play maniacs, all of us. You know, we would we don't care what our subscribers say. We like good plays, and good plays right now are British plays. So too bad.
There was a real reluctance to do things like fight choreography. I remember at one point they brought in some kind of fight choreographer for something. I don't know what play it was, but everybody kicked him out. And and also I know there's stories about True West and how they were drinking real beer. Apparently, I don't know whether that's true or not, but they drink all that beer. And finally, they had to stop because obviously it would make you an alcoholic. If every day you were just drinking tons of beer.
I was in a rehearsal one night for True West, and Billy Peterson was doing, I think he was doing Belly of the Beast, and I was doing A Man Who Came to Dinner down at Columbia. Lori and I were the guest artists, and the rest were students. And Terry was like, we need to have a rehearsal when you guys are done with your show. And we're like, it'll be midnight. And he's like, everybody will be loose. So we were like, Billy and I drag ourselves in there. We're exhausted. And we start the rehearsal. And, the character of Eddie brings in a bottle of tequila from his pickup truck, and he chugs it throughout the whole play, basically. And then there's one point where May turns to him and she said, oh, is this how it's going to be? All right, fine. And she picks up the tequila and shoots it and slams it down. And when I did it, I put it down and I went, because it was real tequila.
Oh my God.
Not put there by Billy. Put there by the director.
Really? Oh God. It's hard to act when you're plastered.
By the time we got done, everybody else went off, and Billy and I were standing in the middle of the room, and he was, he'd been drinking straight tequila. Hold his liquor, but not in this scenario after having done a show and all this other stuff. And so he put his arms around me. He said, it'll be great. And I was like, I know. And Terry came out and said, get away from it. Because Terry thought I was having a mad affair with Billy. No, not happening. On stage, yes. Off stage, no. And so then later that night, we found out that Billy somehow drove over to Redemax on Lincoln Avenue when they still had a place on Lincoln Avenue, and came in and was looking at the mirror and thought it was somebody trying to fight him.
Wow.
And the next day, we had the guy.
Do that to you.
The next day we had the guy that played Martin, also an ensemble member, quit because of that had happened. So that's when you're like, we need to be done with this technique of that. And, there were a couple other instances where alcohol overwhelmed us, and we were all the hard living, hard driving, that whole thing, because we were now getting older, and it was not as attractive, and it was problematic.
Your life there is so full of stories and experiences, and your whole, it's just incredible. Your life period is just full of so many incredible experiences and so many things that you've shared with other people. What does that feel like to be an actor who has done so many productions that, I mean, probably some of them you can't even remember? What does that feel like?
I do have individual memories about, I think I'm up to like something like over 60 productions that I did at
Incredible.
Steppenwolf. But let me tell you, and I would say this to people who are starting out or people who like think I'll never get, I never had it in my head that I was going to arrive at this point. Certainly in my dotage, I didn't think so. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I just kept going. I kept working. What Steppenwolf always afforded me was I was in plays back to back to back to back to back. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I came in there, nobody put my name in the paper in the reviews. It was never me. Mm-hmm. I knew there were some people that couldn't stand me as an actress, in the press, and they would just, it'd be conveniently skipped. And that used to drive me nuts. Yeah. And then I don't remember who said it to me. I should remember. Maybe it was my husband who said, Rhonda, I just think you need to focus on what you're doing. Yeah. And on the work and do that and not worry about the rest of it. And it was Terry Kinney who said to me, you need to stop reading reviews. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. He said, I did it and it's the best thing I ever did.
There are two things we have not even gotten to. One is August Osage County. I mean, you've mentioned it a couple of times. Tracy Letts and working with Tracy Letts and doing that role and winning the Tony. How did all that happen? Have you known Tracy Letts for a long time? I know he was in Chicago.
Yes, I'll try to do a shorthand version of this. When I first met Tracy Letts, he came in when we needed somebody to replace somebody in Picasso at the La Pan Agile, which was Steve Martin's play that we did. Yeah. And Tracy came in and did it. And then when we went out to LA, he did it and he played opposite. I knew who he was, but he was young and he was kind of this rebel with any cause, and I had not seen any of his plays at that point because he was primarily an actor. Yeah. So I was acting opposite him. And I just thought he was really smart and kind of a smart ass as well as smart. Mm-hmm. And I never had any idea that he was an aspiring writer. And so then, we go forward and we're in Chicago. And at this point, he's not in the ensemble. And we did a play called Man from Nebraska that he had written. And he and I were always like, I mean, this in a good way, though. I'd be like, why are you wanting me to do this? What about this? Well, because that's what I want. And I'd be like, but he's a living playwright and it's his deal. Yeah. But there were other times where he'd come up to me and go, Rhonda, I thought about what you said and I think we can modify that. And I'd be like, finally. So when you work with a playwright, it's a different ballgame. And the thing at Steppenwolf was we had done so many new plays and we worked with a lot of playwrights for a good chunk of a decade. So I was used to the give and take. And he was a little intimidated at first, but he had worked with Anna Shapiro off loop and not in the mainstream. I
did a play at Big Game Theater, which was like a thing she had a long, long time ago. And David Cromer directed it. And
and they were this kind of junior bunch that was doing this stuff. So we did Man from Nebraska. And then I was off. That's when I kind of started doing, I was doing Shakespeare, I was doing Wicked, I was, and I was circular. I was not at Steppenwolf. Mm-hmm. And then, I think it was Erica Daniels, the casting director at Steppenwolf, said, Tracy wrote a part in this play and he wants you to do and I said, I don't have time. I'm doing Wicked. And then they did
this in the middle of running Wicked. Oh, wow. Interesting.
Workshop. And I said, I don't have time. And they workshopped August for a long time, and it had several incarnations, and I was never in them. Mm-hmm. And then at one of the company meetings I went to, they were talking about it, and Jeff was saying, you're our Chekhov and all this stuff, and I was like, oh, geez, and Jeff, always hyperbole. So then they came back and they said, we think we're going to do it. And would you be interested? I said, I'm doing Wicked. I really can't. I can't get out of it. And I really don't want to get out of it. And because at that point I had dug myself out of debt. I had, it was like, I wish for every actor they would get something like Wicked, because it's a game changer.
Yeah, I bet.
And so then Tracy Letts, basically, they offered me August Osage County, and I turned it down 4 times. Not once, 4
times. Wow.
He yelled at me one time outside of Steppenwolf. He said, "What is your problem? I wrote this part for you. This is your part." And I went, "I'm doing Wicked." "Oh, fuck Wicked."
Wow.
And I was like, "Well, when you think you can pay me what Wicked is paying me, then I'll God damn it, Rond." And then he turned around and walked away. And then he got his agent, who had been my former agent, to bug me. And then wherever I was, people would say, Tracy, when I was like, he's like in the mafia. He's in the drama mafia, pressuring me.
That's great.
So then flash forward to, we're going to sign up again for Wicked, and we had to renew our contracts. And there were like 4 of us from Chicago that were the main, and we were like, yeah, okay, yeah. So our agents passed on everything else. And then Wicked came back and said, we're going to shake things up. So we're going to let the Chicago people go in hiatus and bring in other people. So there we were, without a job.
Wow.
And I, with my hat in my hand, called Steppenwolf, and I was like, "Remember that part that Tracy wrote for me?" And
Great.
I said I would never do. And Erica Daniels said, "Are you serious? Are you serious? Because, we have is getting ready to cancel her trip to Ireland because she's going to do it." And we were going to do it that summer in Chicago. And I said, and I hadn't even read it at this point.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll do it.
Great.
So that's how it started off. And then, when it moved forward to like, okay, it's going to go to New York. And I was like, this play will never go to New York. It's too long. There's too many people, And Sally Murphy, who is my dressing roommate, turned to me and she said, "Hear me now, Rondi Reed. If you don't go to New York." I go, "Well, it's not even that big a part." She was like, "Rondi Reed, I mean it." And I was like, okay. So I agreed to go and do 8 weeks. And then, of course, when we got there, the stagehand strike happened. So everything was shut down. Broadway shut down. And so all of us were there going, do we stay? Do we go? I was ready to throw my dog in a rental car and just leave. But I figured I'll get to New Jersey and then they'll say, "Oh, we're back."
Come back.
And but there was a lot of stuff like Tom Stoppard's Rock and Roll was on, The Seafarer was on. It was a huge season. And so we opened, and it was, I think, it was pretty evident from the beginning. And I remember people coming to see it in Chicago, and I was like, "Do you think it's any good?" And they were like, "What?" Because I was like, "Really? You think it's good?" And they were like, yeah, we think it's good. So even in New York, half of the cast was preparing. They begged us to stay until the Tony, and half of the cast, our last performance was the matinee before the Tonys that night. And so my ex-husband then said, "Have you got a speech?" And I said, "I'm not going to win. Martha Plimpton's up, Lori's up. Blah, blah, blah." I said, "It's just not going to happen." He goes, "Well, you know what? Jot something down on a little pad and stick it in your purse." He said, "It'll be a great souvenir. And you don't want to get up there and be like, hey. So I was like, "Yeah, okay." So I walked off the stage. I made my last exit. I walked in my dressing room. I sat down and I wrote 6 or 8 lines. And I literally folded up, put it in my purse, went to Radio City. And I really almost have no memory I remember jumping up with my friend Michael, who was my date. And then I was up on the stage. It was an out of body experience.
Wow. Yeah.
Out of body. Never expected. Thrilling. It did open doors for me. I'd be lying if it wasn't true. But then, it's been, what year did we do that? 7. It's been 12, 13, 14 years, so, but still, I did Shakespeare out here with Tom Hanks, no less. And the agents called me and they said, well, you're on a short list. I was like, yeah, right. I know what that means. There's 23 movie and television stars and I'm at the bottom.
Oh, God. So you won the Tony for it. Then the movie happens and then you don't play the character in the movie. How is that frustrating as an actor? Or?
No, here's a little secret. I was cast in the movie.
You were?
And then what was said, I went in and met John Wells.
Yeah.
And he was just terrific, very actor friendly. And I said, John, I love how you work with actors. I always have. And, we talked and he said, well, I saw you do it on Broadway 3 times and I really want you and Chris Cooper, and I was like, oh, be still my heart.
Yeah.
And then he said, they're going to ask me to have you come back and read for the producers. I said, absolutely. I understand that. Please. He said, well, you won a Tony. I go, no bearing, apples and oranges. I get it. So I came back. I did the reading. Fine. Then the agents called me and they said, you got the offer, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, there was something about it that I just went, this doesn't feel real to me. This doesn't seem like it's true. And they said, but don't post it. I was like, I'm not going to post anything. I've learned my lesson on that.
Right. Of course. We all have learned that lesson.
So then we were waiting. Then word came back. Well, they're trying to coordinate schedules because Meryl's schedule and Julia's schedule is very tight. We don't know about your TV schedule and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of back and forth. And then John was personally emailing me more than once and saying, Rondi, we're working with this, hang tight. I'm not sure yet. I'm so sorry, And then the next email I got from him, this is even before before the agents knew, it's just not going to work out. And I'm really sorry. I'm sorry it's dragged out all this long. And my thing says, your internet connection is unstable.
Yeah, I did it for a second.
So is my life. So it was like, and I wrote back to him. I said, John, thank you so much. It was an honor. I felt like the football captain asked me to dance. And I said, I was thrilled and honored to meet you. And thanks so much. I really appreciate everything you've done. And he said, you should also know Chuck Lorre's people really try to work with this. Now, my agents went berserk. Yeah. Berserk. And I said to one of them, look, it's not meant to be. I didn't say, when you first told me, I had a funny feeling, but I said, you know what? It's not meant to be. And that's okay. My life goes on. I was going back to Chicago to do a play and I was like, it's okay. It's all right. I did it.
And you won the Tony.
Yeah. Tracy wrote it for me.
He wrote it for you. Yeah.
I'm good. And I think this is my theory, and I could be totally wrong because Harvey Weinstein was one of the producers. And after the fact, we found out that it was sold to him before it even went to Broadway. And so I think there were a couple of rumors swirling that Harvey didn't want any of the original cast in it whatsoever.
Oh, I see. That makes sense. It doesn't make sense.
I get that. But what was really funny was, and then I'll wind up, but Margot Martindale was playing my sister on Mike and Molly.
And she played the role in the movie, right? Yeah.
And we had the table read and she came around. She goes, all right, sit down. I want to talk to you about August in the movie. What the hell happened?
She doesn't even know.
We went over and we sat, and of course we were like this. And she said, Rondi, I auditioned 4 times for that movie. Why the hell didn't you do it? And then I told her, and then flash forward again, and Kathy Bates is playing my childhood friend on Mike and Molly. And she said, well, blah, 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 the Tony in August. And I'm so sorry I didn't get to see it. I said, oh, please, and I said, did they talk to you about the movie? She goes, I couldn't get an audition.
Wow.
I was like, what? I mean, she's not too old. She's got a couple of Oscars.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of other, I mean, and the other thing is too, it's like Benedict Cumberbatch, all those actors, but it was like who's who in that cast.
Yeah.
And as somebody said, why didn't they just do American Playhouse and do the play? And I went, because it was sold. And we didn't know that. It was sold before we even went to New York. It was sold when we were in Chicago. So that's theater.
That is a very interesting story. And it's the politics of the business. The politics of the business. Mm-hmm. When you're doing Mike and Molly, which you were on for 6 years, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And playing Mike's mom. And it was very, very fun, very not necessarily a likable character, but definitely a character that people can identify with. And
I refer to her as that woman. Oh yes, that woman.
How did you? How is it different from doing a play, doing a sitcom like that?
Well, it's interesting because the first sitcom job I ever had was Roseanne, and I was playing Lori. I was playing Jackie's therapist.
Yeah. And
I had not done television really. And I walked up to Lori. She goes, "How you doing?" I was like, "I'm kind of scared shitless, Lori." And she goes, "Look, just pretend you're doing a play. That's what I do. They got cameras all over. They'll catch it." And I went, oh, okay. Oh. And so that really helped. Mm-hmm. And then to do Mike and Molly, which I'd never done. I had been a guest star, but I'd never done a series regular. Mm-hmm. And that was another one, direct offer. So you get made a direct offer, and Chuck Lorre had seen me do August, and Mark Roberts said, "Oh, when I was a college student, I saw every play at Steppenwolf." So you come in with this kind of, I got to step up and be good and all of this stuff. And, it was a steep learning curve. My first couple of years, I called someone the first night of the first taping I did, and I held up the phone. I said, "Can you hear that?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "It's like a game show meets a cruise ship meets a frat party." That's what it's like out there in that audience. Yeah. And so I was like, "Remember what Lori said about it being like a play?" Yeah. And Jim Burrows, who was the director, he of Cheers and he's like Mr. I said, I got
Mr. Hit TV show.
Oh my God. I said, I got my degree in sitcom working with Jim Burrows. And, I'd be doing something, goes, honey, faster, 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 faster. Just throw it away, throw it away, throw it away. Right. It's like theater, only faster. I was like, oh, okay. And then I reached a point where he was like, slow down, you're going too fast, and I'd be like, oh my God. But he would walk. He wouldn't even look at what you were doing. He could hear the musicality of it and the rhythm of it. And what was interesting was Frank Galati directed like that. I mean, Frank Galati took in everything else, but Frank Galati would speak in musical terms. Honey, I think that needs a little coda. I think there should be a grace note. I think we need to crescendo on that and then let it kind of dissipate down. So, I, again, as well as being exposed to all these different, my God, it's a smorgasbord. I'm one of I call myself lucky girl because that's how I truly feel. And to work with a variety of people that I've worked with. So, it was all happenstance. There's been so many things that I feel have just landed in my lap, but I've had more than one person say to me, no, you've worked.
So many people are aware of your work. And so many people, when they go to cast something, they think of you, I'm sure. I'm wondering if even there's a connection between John Mahoney and you're working with him and then the character that you played on Mike and Molly, because it was, somewhat similar, I guess, to the character, that he played on Frasier.
And who was the happiest for me that I got that sitcom?
Who?
John Mahoney.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, darling, I'm so happy for you." He used to worry, I think, about me that I was going to end up penniless on Lower Wacker Drive.
Yeah, because I imagine there was a time where you were kind of like, well, everybody's like making the big bucks. When is my turn? And you did.
There was a part of that where I was really upset and angry and frustrated. And then I thought, you know what? I think somewhere I read, like, your path is your path and everybody else's is their own. So, the more I kind of got into, I sort of connected with the spirituality, being a fallen away Catholic, and I got, I began to open up to a lot of different things in my life, not huge woo-woo, but a little bit of woo-woo is not a bad thing.
Definitely.
And, I was like, you know what? There seems to be kind of a path here. And, it's that adage about, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans,
Yeah.
So I seemed, when I was open, when I was available, you still keep working, you still keep doing the stuff. But if you uber focus on this is what I'm doing, and that I will not accept anything else. And it applies to personal relationships. It applies to employment. It applies to life goals. I had a friend in New York, a younger actor than me. And I said, so how are you doing? He goes, well, I was in the finals, for Dead Man Walking. And I went in there and I was being a reader, and, Susan Sarandon and Tim Roth, they loved me. And I thought, oh, I'm going to get this part. And I didn't get it. And I was just so bummed. And I was really angry. And, I let him go on. And then I said, well, how are things on the commercial end? Well, I have 4 national voiceovers. I have 2 this, I have 2 that. I've knocked out my credit card debt. And I went, okay, here's what I'm going to say to you. And I say this out of love and respect. You have a lot of energy in one place. So you got to kind of honor wherever the energy is. I don't refer, I have problems sometimes with people who throw around the artist word. I mean, I think that's their prerogative if they want to use it. There are some people that I feel are accoladed that. I've been lucky enough to work with a few of them, and Peter Weir. The first movie I did in LA was a Peter Weir movie. I almost had a stroke. I was like, this guy is an artist.
Yeah.
That is an artist,
But I do think you're right about it. Like, being an actor is a craft position. You craft a character. You can call it an art form, but I do think that word craft is something that really helps you keep your feet on the ground and keep your attention on the work itself.
Absolutely.
Rather than being like, oh, I'm an artist.
a lot of it is done on your own, in the quiet, at night, with a script, being depressed, there were plays that just about killed me. I was like, I was imagine. Well, I had a decade where I was playing, like, I was doing Death and the Maiden and Fool for Love and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And, I was in my 40s. I was lucky. I did Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf when I was 42. And when Laurie was going to do it on Broadway before it got shut down, I go, how? She goes, how the hell did you do it? And I said, it was 25 years ago. Right. That's how I did it. And she's like, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
Amy and Deanna, especially Amy really had
stamina
of that.
Night after night, man.
Which in my speech is why I said Amy Morton.
Yeah,
Amy
right.
Morton. Because I thought they're not going to give it to her. And you know what? She's like MVP. She got really me through my scenes, and she got many. Just this. And she was brilliant in that part.
Yeah.
And, that's the thing. When you're surrounded by people like that on stage, that was a gift that was Steppenwolf always to me. It's like they set the bar high and you aspired to that. And then you got to play together. Albert Finney, when we were doing that play with him, when we opened our new space, he goes, I feel like I'm in the middle of a jazz orchestra.
Oh, really? I remember when he was there. I was there too. And
Steppenwolf to him was like playing jazz.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool. Just one final story here. Randy Arney told me one time, I think it was Randy. Yeah. He said he was upstairs in the office, like on the second floor. And he was looking at old pictures, and he was in a play, but he got lost in looking at old pictures and was just that he missed his entrance. And he was like, he said, I was like 10 minutes late for my entrance. And I ran down the stairs. He said, I ran down the stairs and I came on set. I came on the stage. I realized that they were just waiting. He came on the set, on the stage, full on, play is in motion. And I think he said Gary Sinise and John Malkovich. I'm not sure, but they were sitting there just existing, just reading the paper, hanging out, just being in their environment for like a long time.
A long time.
And I'm just like, wow, that's cool.
Of that. Yeah, there was Arms and the Man one night where 5 of us missed our entrance.
Oh, no.
Because 2 of us were talking about somebody who had missed their entrance. Yeah. And then somebody ran off to get the 2 that were supposed to be. I mean, it was like a comedy of errors, you know. And Sheldon Patinkin was directing it. And boy, we got put to the ringer. Working with Melissa McCarthy and watching her going from being, she's another one. She's a worker bee. She's always got projects. And then, when Bridesmaids hit and her career went through, she tells the story, which I just love this. She goes, I got so excited about auditioning for it. She went in that getup, the golfer woman getup.
Yeah.
And walked in, she did it, and she goes, they laughed, and she goes, I got in the car and I was like, oh my God, I'm so stupid. I just shot myself in the foot. What am I thinking? Dressing up like that. They probably hate it.
There's that little voice in your head.
At me.
Right.
And all of this stuff. And she goes, never in my wildest dreams did I think it would do what it did. And then, when they asked her to host Saturday Night Live the first time, she was at, oh God, one of these kind of lower, I was at this furniture store and I was buying a rug for this room and I didn't want to spend a lot of money. And I was with my friend and the cell phone rings and it's my husband, Ben. And she goes, telling me this. And she said, I ran between the rugs, those ones on hangers and just went, she said, it's my dream.
Yeah. To be on Saturday, to host Saturday Night Live. Wow.
Yeah. So, and she said it was like out of body. And so, yes, you're not gonna, you scratch those people and underneath there's a lot of commonality, Well,
she was over here at the Groundlings just forever. Somebody I know says this and they say it in just the most humility at this point. They said they went and saw a show at the Groundlings a long, long time ago. There was this hilarious woman in it. And he said when he walked out, he thought it's too bad that she'll never be famous because that girl is hilarious. And it was Melissa McCarthy.
She's another one, suburb of Chicago.
Yeah.
Plainfield. Her parents still live there. She was like a punk at Carbondale, Southern Illinois University.
Really?
She shaved her head and she had black and the whole thing. And her parents were, she was in fashion design. She goes, I only started doing stand-up in New York to pay the bills. And she said, and I was not very good at it and it wasn't fun. And then I had a friend out in LA and said, you should come out to LA. And, she's another one, worked in the trenches for many.
Inspirational, those kind of people. It's so great. So great talking with you. And thanks for spending the time with
Joel.
us.
God,
here.
I bent your ears sideways.
It's awesome.
Good luck for me to shut up.
No, it's super, super, it's just a gift. It's a gift to have around and also to talk about all that stuff this is so interesting to me. And I know a lot of people that are going to watch this interview.
Well, and I threatened to write a book at one time, The Real Story.
Yeah.
I was going to write The Magic, the Myth, and the Truth.
Yeah.
Because I do know where a lot of the bodies are buried.
I'm sure.
In essence, it's like those days, and they really were salad days, and they were hard, and but we had each other, and we really had that focus, and we were not yet so dispersed to New York and Hollywood yet.
Yeah. All right, that was it. That was the conversation with Rondi Reed. Sort of an abrupt end there. But we went on to talk about more stuff. So I want to make sure that, we get this show in. And then, I'm going to put the rest of it on fat-free film. It's going to be fat-free film, the next one. Haven't done a fat-free film in forever, and I think that'll be just a really nice conversation to put in there. And thank you, everybody, for being here. And thank you, Rondi Reed, for this. Thank you, Rondi. Yeah, what an amazing life she's leading. And we got some therapy. Yeah, we got some really good inspiration there, I think. So another inspiration is coming your way right now. Frank Watkinson. He is I've just noticed him on YouTube doing these covers of songs, and it's really fantastic. And he said that he was working on Down in the Hole by Alice in Chains, because it's just him and his guitar. And this song came to him. I asked him if I could share it. Here it is. Frank Watkins. In My Dreams.
There is no river I can't cross. There is no desert that's too hot. There is no mountain I can't climb in my dream.
Please subscribe to Frank Watkinson's channel on YouTube. You will not regret
There
it.
will be strangers shouting more as I glide across the ballroom floor. Just like Fred Astaire, it seems, in my dreams. Your body may be aching, and although your heart is breaking, there is one place where all's not what it seems. And you're never old in your dreams. There are no sights that I can't see. Everyone I ever loved is here with me. There is no hurt or painful memory. So once again your hand I'll hold, soft and warm, there's no such thing as cold. In my dreams I can be anything but old. And your body may be aching, and although your heart is breaking, there is one place where all's not what it seems. And you are never old in your dream. You're never old in your